Hello nerds, how you doing? It's Ryan here, one of your hosts of Into the Wild. Can't say host anymore, it's got to be one of, or your co-host. My other lovely co-host, Nadia Shape, will not be featuring on today's episode. Don't worry, she's absolutely fine, she's just not here. We live 350 miles away from each other. It's quite hard to do spur of the moment episodes together. But how are you doing? You're all enjoying spring? It's banging, isn't it? I'm walking on a park called Parkland Walk, just by my house, an old abandoned railway, but it's all grown over and lovely and it's kept very wild. And I think it's about to absolutely piss it down. You know, I can see black clouds surrounding me and I've got the one patch of blue above me, so I'm going to try and do this intro as quick as I can. Otherwise I'll be, oh my God, there's a man hanging in the tree. I thought that was something harrowing then. He's doing it intentionally. Jesus Christ. Why do people do stuff like this? Anyway, welcome to this little bonus episode. This, as well as our monthly episodes, myself and Nadia will, when we can, start doing little bonus things when we go around doing naturey things or meeting people or being on location somewhere. We'll try our best to have a few interviews to be able to create extra content for you all. And this is my first one. So let's tell you what this little episode's about. So a couple of weeks ago, I was very fortunate enough to attend the Whitley Awards. Now, those of you that don't know what the Whitley Awards are or have never heard of the Whitley Fund for Nature, listen up. Let me fill you in. Quite simply, the Whitley Fund for Nature is a UK fundraising and grant-giving charity. It supports conservation leaders basically working in their home countries across the global south. And over 29 years, they've channeled £20 million to more than 200 conservationists in 80 countries, which is just absolutely incredible. And I was, like I said, privileged enough to attend the Whitley Awards 2023 a couple of weeks ago, which is there to award the winners of that year, who get their grants, get some cash, much needed cash, as we all know. That's the way that every sector works, it needs the money. But it's also a chance for them to network, meet NGOs, people that work for them, directors and other financial opportunities as well, and also talk to the media and talk to podcasts like Into the Wild. So it was a lovely evening, lots of celebration, lots of learning, lots of handshaking, lots of wine, and then the next day, very last minute, but I was even more privileged enough to get invited back down to Kensington to meet two of the winners of the event, which is Leonard Akwana from Kenya and Yuliana Bedolla from Mexico. Leonard is involved in community-based conservation work in Lake Victoria, the Kenyan section, working to restore the native species of fish in that area and to support the livelihoods of the surrounding communities that rely on that population of fish and the water itself. And Yuliana, who works with some small islands off the coast of her community, part of Mexico, to restore and protect the seabird populations there. But not only that, work with the local fishermen in that area and also encourage women to join, learn and take part in the active conservation work on the islands as well. So I ran down to Kensington. Well, I didn't, I got the tube. And we struggled to find a place to record, I won't lie to you, so we picked the noisiest cafe we could in a hotel. There is a bit of background noise, but thanks for your patience as always. It was a very spur of the moment interview, but it was a lovely interview nonetheless. So I hope you enjoy this episode. This is just a little bonus chat with two of the winners from the Whitley Awards, Leonard Akwana and Yuliana Bedolla. Enjoy. So, welcome. Well, first of all, I should say congratulations to you both. It must have been a very intense 24 hours receiving your awards last night. So for my listeners, I'm sat here with Yuliana and Leonard, two of the award winners from the Whitley Fund for Nature Awards 2023 last night. I was there to see them and others collect, and also, to be fair, collect your awards, but also you all did some nice speeches, and they were quite short, but they were quite powerful. Everything everyone said was quite a nice sum up. So Yuliana, I'll start with you. how was last night for you? How was it being in front of everyone, receiving recognition, not just for yourself, but for all the people involved in the projects that you do? How was it to be in front of all those people and get that recognition?
Oh my God. Well, that was amazing. It was a very rewarding moment for me. And it's something that I never imagined that I will experience in my life, really. Because everyone there was so warming and they were expecting to us, to have a great time there. So I felt, I don't know, great excitement. Yeah. Very nervous too because talk in front of 500 people is not easy, and it's my first time doing something similar. So yeah, it was amazing, and I was very happy because my family, friends, and colleagues were also watching the ceremony live.
Amazing. Yeah, that is actually a thing I forgot when I was watching last night. I was forgetting that it was being live streamed. So it was nice to have like the people in your kind of, like you said, your family and friends watching at home as well. And I've got to say you were nervous. Did not come across, because I was thinking the whole time, I was like, okay, as a British guy, there's no way I could go and speak and do a speech in front of that many people in a different language that is not my own. I was like, this is mad. I could not do this. I can do public speaking, but very much only in English. I'm that stubborn, but typical British guy that can't do it. So yeah, it was amazing to see you. Leonard, how about yourself? In front of all those people as well, how is it for you?
For me, the feeling was very great. And for me, it was not just about winning the award. For me, it was about realizing the fact that there are people outside here who are very supportive of our work, who are very, who are following and ready to support us, who are ready to advise us, and even ready to put resources into the work that we do. So yesterday, feeling connected to that kind of outside support was very great for me as we struggle, as we advance in our conservation work. So that feeling of outside support, people with listening ears, people are very warm, people are very encouraging, people are very motivating. For me, that was more powerful than just receiving the trophy or receiving the award.
It's amazing to be in a room with that many people, isn't it? And I mean, I was sat there, and I just, as all of you were speaking, I could just see the sea of nodding heads, and I think that's something so motivating to see, because everyone, regardless of what background you're coming from, what views you're coming from, what political agendas, I think everyone was in that room for the same reasons. We all want to see a world with strengthened biodiversity, of community-led, where people have livelihood supported, again in any country we're talking about, where people are on that front line facing with wildlife, they're seeing the benefits for their nature, for their connection to it and their livelihoods. And I think I saw that across the board in the room last night. It was so nice. Juliana, do you want to just tell my listeners a bit about what your project is? So what you do, what's the ethos behind what you're doing in Mexico?
Well, our organization, together with the local community of 2 small islands in the Mexican Pacific, what we want to achieve is to maintain the islands as safe havens for seabirds. That means free of invasive predators as cats and rodents like mice or rats. Yeah. And we are doing this with collaboration of local fishing cooperatives. So they live on the islands, they work on the island, and they will come and back to the mainland, to the island, with a lot of equipment, a lot of luggage, belongings and food. So they have to be very careful about what they are bringing to the island, and just to take care that they are not bringing a rodent just hiding between all their stuff. And most importantly, we are working with a group of women, local women. They are the wives or the fishermen, and they are very committed to the conservation of the islands. They really are very eager and enthusiastic to do projects with their community about raising awareness and environmental education. So we are giving them some skills. We are giving them training to do this kind of, to develop their own projects, and also to monitor some seabird species on the island that are very important, because these 2 islands are very small, but they are internationally at a global scale. They are very, very important, but because they are the main breeding colonies of 2 species that only breed in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So that's why it's important to take care of these breeding sites.
And how do you, like, invasive species, globally, that's a big task to kind of manage, because throughout our history, species have been introduced intentionally and unintentionally.
Right.
So that must be a big topic. How do you kind of stay on top of that to make sure that these invasive species, when they're eradicated from the island, don't come back?
Yeah, well, it is a big challenge, totally, because we are, during the last 20 years, what we have done, I would say the half of the job, of the work that we have, that was removing these invasive mammals from the islands. But now that all the islands have a community related with that they work or they live there, we need to continue working on that, on changing the behavior of the people, working with people, so that they can they can use these measures in their daily lives. So it's like watching your teeth, brushing your teeth, every day. So they just take care of what they are bringing to the islands. That can be part of their daily lives. So. Yeah, it is difficult, but it takes time. It takes this project of long-term frame. So, yeah, but it is possible because we have seen that in other parts of the world. For example, New Zealand, Australia, United States. Also, they are doing this kind of efforts to maintain the islands free of invasive predators. And they are. We also in Mexico. We have several years working with other communities, and all the experience that we are gaining all around the world and in our country, I think it is saying us that it is possible to do it.
And I guess as well, it's very easy for conservation to be, we look at things certainly in the UK, we look at things at very short term, but this is something you're talking about as a long-term plan to change that kind of, like you said, like it's getting that in that culture of brushing your teeth, that same mindset of it's important, you do it every day to make sure the island's safe. So it's a real long-term plan to kind of secure the wildlife here?
Yeah, well, for sure. I think we can be sure that our work is done when we see the communities take care by themselves of the islands, and they are stewardships or the resources, and they submit proposals to the government to get funds and to conserve the islands or to restore their habitats of the species. I think that will be the moment where we can say we are done here. We can move on to other communities. Yes.
Oh, isn't that just such a warm feeling, though? I love hearing stuff like that, because it's not a definitive moment. It's not like one day you just walk into a room and see a light on. It's going to be a real nice gradual change where teams one day will be able to step back and go, it's just working. Look, everything. It's like you said, that stewardship and having it's such a powerful and lovely moment to be able to have.
Yeah.
For the communities around these islands now, do you find, is it easy to get them involved in this? Is this something that they already have that passion for the seabirds, or is it something that maybe have been lost for any reasons and it kind of has to be re-encouraged back in?
Yeah, definitely it's something that we have to re-encourage because the generations are changing, because we have been working with them for about 15 years. And I remember a time when they were just already saying the names of the species and everything, but then they moved to another area, or maybe then they moved to, other city or to the main island, and they are not all the time on the same island. Now are coming new generations that they don't know what were the problems in the past and why it is important to take care of the birds there. So that's why we have to continue working with them. But they are very interested in the conservation of the islands because, well, they are mostly fishermen working with lobsters and abalone, and they have set some natural protected areas voluntarily, and the government never came, or an organization came and said, you should do this.
Wow.
They did it by themselves. So they already know that it's important to do this kind of actions.
Yeah.
And actually they are willing to help us all the time with the logistics, and also they give us a place to stay when we are on the islands.
Amazing.
Yes, so actually we have the support. They don't have this passion for seabirds, but definitely they have the knowledge because they see them all the time, and they know that there are a lot of birds around. There are a lot of resources as well in the sea.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Like you said, it's that power of knowledge, isn't it? So we forget to look at that. We forget. We go there and we go to these places and go, let's try and start from scratch. Where we forget that there's people around these islands already that have such, or wherever we're talking, that have such great power of knowledge because they're there all the time. It makes sense. Leonard, that kind of brings us very nicely onto your project when we're talking about fishing, because that is really at the forefront of what you're doing. So do you want to tell us a bit about your project that you were awarded this prize for? What is it? What's the ethos behind it? What's going on for you in Kenya?
Yes, my project is based in Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is the second largest freshwater lake in the world, and it is also the largest tropical freshwater lake in the world. So this lake historically has had over 500 species of fish, native species of fish. But this has reduced to below 200.
Wow.
And the reason here is because of overfishing. The reason here is because of pollution. The reason here is because of clearing of the wetlands, which are supposed to be areas for fish breeding. And then, of course, there is a lot of land-based changes, like agriculture, which is clearing soil, and this is resulting in soil erosion, and there is siltation of the lake, which is making the lake shallow and shallow. So there are all these challenges. But of course, my project, or the project that we are working on, or the project which led to winning of the Whitley Award, is focusing on overfishing. And what we are doing in this regard is to work with the fisherfolk communities, those who are at the front line, those who are doing fishing, those whose livelihoods depend on fishing. We are working with them to create what we are calling community fish reserves.
Right.
So these are areas that each and every beach management unit, there are 281 of them around Lake Victoria on the Kenyan side, because this lake is shared between Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda in East Africa. But we are starting our work from the Kenyan side. Now we will work with 5 of those BMUs to create community fish reserves where fish can breed and then repopulate the lake. And also these beach management units, they are supposed to manage fisheries at their site, in their landing site, but they are not empowered. They are just created and then left on their own. So through this award, we are going to train them on monitoring and surveillance. We are going to train them on how to organize themselves, how to protect riparian areas, and also we are going to train them on how to do resource mobilization within government or from any other development partners, to help them strengthen their organization and to help them actively manage their fisheries. And then of course we are also going to promote alternative green livelihoods, to diversify. For instance, help them to improve on their fishing gears, to have right fishing gears, and also to stop fishing within the fish breeding area and go into the main waters, so that they can fish there, and on this side leave the fish to breed. And also closely linked to this project is the empowerment of women. And as I've said severally, is that if there is less fish, women suffer. And they suffer in terms of women in the fish value chain, they are involved in fish trading or fish mongering. Now if the men are the people who fish and then bring fish, land fish at the beach. Now if there is less fish, then these women are going to compete for this fish, and through that then issues of sexual exploitation then comes into picture. So we are also going to empower these women in terms of self-esteem, in terms of confidence, and in terms of being part and parcel of grassroots fisheries governance, but most importantly also to empower them through self-help groups to be able to have their own income generating activities, to own fishing boats, and then through that then they will have that economic strength, and they will no longer be vulnerable to the gender-based violence that is common within these fishing villages. So in a nutshell, this is the project, and this is what we are doing around Lake Victoria.
It's amazing. I think that's one thing that kind of hit me and my friends that were there last night, was throughout all these projects how much it was focused on women-led as well. Like they kind of run through almost all the projects, and it was a real important thing. And I think it kind of tied them all together, maybe unintentionally, but kind of very nicely in that event last night. And I think from someone in the UK, when we look at our conservation in our country, it's very rarely looked at community-led. It's very rarely looked at, you know, is this something that the community need? It's not looked at like that. So when we hear, especially Lake Victoria, something that stood out for me with this project was how much it was because livelihoods were affected by it. And it's important for biodiversity, it's important for the survival of the planet, and that ties in nicely and with our kind of attitudes in the UK. But something that really hooked me was, well, it's a livelihood thing as well. And if these fish go, if this lake strength dies down, as does the livelihood in the community as well. So, like, my similar questions to Yuliana, to yourself, is, you know, how easy is it to get the community involved in this? Is this a no-brainer for them? Are the community totally understanding the conservation, the needs for conservation? It sounds like it's easy to do, obviously not an easy task, but like is that kind of stuff understood clearly?
Yes, in the part of the world where I come from, we still heavily depend on natural resources.
Yeah.
Community depend on natural resources for their livelihoods, for their food security, for their employment. So it is very critical that they are at the center of what we are doing, because they are at the front line. They are the stewards who needs to be empowered so that they can be able to manage the resource. And the fact that they have lived with this resource for many years, they have also traditional and local knowledge on how to manage this resource. So it is very, very important, because we have found that command and control does not work.
Yeah.
Top, bottom does not work. The only thing that works is to work with the community, and if you link their livelihoods with the conservation, then you find they are very proactive. They are very passionate about working with you to conserve that resource. So the model that works with these Fisher for Communities is that model that has the community at the center of everything. You plan with them, because if it comes into creation of these fish breeding areas, then it is them to do that, and it is them also to survey that and enforce that. For instance, of course, we will use marker buoys to mark the fish breeding area. But the first stage in doing that, first and foremost, is what we are calling mental fence or social fence.
Yeah.
Because this is what is sustainable, and that community is part and parcel of that. So any project that does not have community at the front line will always fail, and will always be accused of human rights abuses, because the community have a right to use the resource.
Yeah.
So you cannot keep them off from using the resource. You cannot keep them off from decision making. And all over, if we look at issues of natural resource management, those which proactively and genuinely involves the community stand a chance to success, and the community will always support those endeavors. Yeah.
I really wish my government could hear this. and the NGOs, the conservation people, because I think the command and control is something we've still got here, and I really want to see gone, because, like, you know, even in our local area, my local area in London, there are some great community.
Command and control is also very expensive.
It is, right? It doesn't look after itself.
Because you see, the government wants to do command and control, but they don't even have a fuel to fuel a motorbike for the field office of government to go and command and control things down there.
Yeah.
So command and control is very expensive, and therefore participatory, community-led kind of natural resource management is the way to go.
Do you find this as well? Have you had to have this shift from command to control to more community-led? Is this the same in your country as well?
Well, definitely Yeah, I think kind of some combination of that. Well, at least in the communities that I'm working on, the communities are the ones that are leading all the
Yeah,
conservation because they have the resources actually,
Yeah.
and the government has not resources at all.
No.
There are several natural protected areas in Mexico, and there are park rangers and there are some offices, but they mostly only do bureaucratic, administrative things more than field work because they don't have the budget to go to the field and to do surveillance around the islands or I am just referring to the islands where I
Yes,
am
yeah, of
working on
course, yeah.
because definitely the conditions in the federal natural protected areas in Mexico are different, but definitely the budget for conservation is low right now. We have to to get the money to seek for that.
Yeah.
Well, in the case of these cooperatives, they are the ones that I am in charge of that.
The last question I'll ask you both is just very simply for community-led conservation. Like, if you could say something to everyone on the planet about community-led conservation and how important it is, what would you say to everyone for them to be able to take away and take with them?
The bottom line is that these resources are not there in a vacuum. These resources have got their custodians. These resources have got people who have been living with them, coexisting with them, and therefore any conservation approach that ignores that fact is bound to fail. Because if it is wildlife, communities have been living with those wildlife. And if wildlife have done any destruction, then it is those communities who have gone through that destruction. If there is any intact forest, if there is any intact island, if there is any intact fisheries, then it is those communities who have been working towards sustaining of those natural resources. Now, within those communities, we have people, we have culture, we have knowledge, we have skills, we have energy, we have aspirations, we have all that we need to collaboratively work with them to deliver on sustainability of these natural resources. And therefore, we will always watch for community-led conservation, because if, for instance, you're working with an NGO, your NGO will go, the money you have from donors will go, but that community will always be there. And therefore, working with them, empowering them to deliver on sustainability of natural resources is the way to go. Don't think that you know it all. Don't go there as an expert, but go there as a facilitator. Listen to them, listen to the youth, listen to children, listen to old people, listen to women. Yeah, because women are very intimately, from my experience, women are very intimately linked with the natural resources, because if anything goes wrong with those natural resources, they suffer more. If there is no firewood, it is women who will go long distances to get firewood. If there is no water, it is women who will go long distances to get water. So it is always important to listen to those local voices, so that factoring those local voices into our conservation approach stand a chance to succeed. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. And Yuliana?
Yeah, of course, yeah. he already said kind
Yeah.
of the same. I will just brief summary about that. That definitely what we had seen in all these years that we had been working with island communities is that the conservation-led by communities is the only way that we can maintain our conservation gains in the long term, because you can have a lot of money and all the resources, but if the community is not involved in that effort, that will not will be sustained in the long term. And what we want to do is that investment can be can be maintained in the long term. So we're also will have that. That's the only, I will say, model that we have seen that actually works, because, well, they are, as already Leonard said, they are the ones living there. We are only I feel that we are just supporters of them. We are the ones. Actually, in my organization, we are not using any more environmental education. We are using more learning education because we believe that it's more like an exchange of experiences and knowledges between the communities more than we NGOs or we government and university going to the communities to teach something. We are not teaching something. We are sharing and we are building together with the communities because we have the same objective. What we want to do is to have a better environment for us now in the present, but mostly for the future generations.
Thanks for listening to this bonus episode of Into the Wild. To support us and help keep these extra episodes going, head over to kofi.com/intothewildpod, link in bio, to grab us a coffee. If you're able to, of course. We are aware that current state of things is pretty dire. Thanks, and Nadia and I will see you on the next monthly episode.